Hi, I had commented on your video that my husband and I were a Bethel couple with 3 kids, and we left the truth. I served there from '03 to '05, and together with my husband, and he was there for 6 years before that. Our our leave from this organization is a long one, so I'll just try to give you the highlights. Basically, during the pandemic, I started watching a lot of cult documentaries. Pretty much every cult documentary that was on Netflix, I watched. And then I also started watching the YouTube channel Cults to Consciousness and watched a lot of her videos. And it was eerie how many similarities that I could pull between these cults and the teachings of Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was my first layer of doubt that set in. And then being in the pandemic and having extra time on our hands, I decided to really think critically about all of the teachings, that were told to me from birth on that were the truth. So I started to really critically think and critically examine a lot of these teachings, not so much doctrines, a lot more just like kind of social expectations. And it did not take long at all for me to unravel all of those. So that was things like refusing a blood transfusion and not celebrating birthdays, not celebrating holidays, the acceptance of gay people. I truly believe that people are born that way, and that to allow them to not get married and not have children is doing a horrible disservice to people that identify that way. So I guess those are probably the biggest things that I had issue with. Also the shunning that happens and that breaks up families, that made me very sad. So I was just kind of still going through the motions in my heart, knowing that this organization is super culty and that a lot of their stand on things I just didn't agree with anymore. I was still going to the meetings, still going out in service, rarely. But in my heart, I just didn't think that this organization was the truth anymore. And then last summer, I had my complete turning point, breaking point, whatever. But I've always been into science a lot and had been reading a lot of science articles, reading a lot of science documentaries. I've always done that my whole life. And I started following really closely the science story that broke last year and the year before about fossilized footprints that were found in New Mexico. And these footprints were dated using 3 different methods, and they were found to be 20,000 years old. So I did a lot of research on that and the different methods that were used. And I've always had this in the back of my mind that humans could not have only been on this earth for 6,000 years. So then I just went down a lot of rabbit holes about Paleolithic fossils that have been found and how long modern humans have been on this earth. That was mostly what I was focusing on. And I just came to this sudden realization that humans have been here for tens of thousands of years, modern humans, and that the Adam and Eve story was just a myth. And why are we suffering so much when the Adam and Eve story never happened? Humans have been on this earth suffering and dying for tens of thousands of years, period. So that was my breaking point. And then the meeting after Labor Day ended up being my last meeting. The brother giving the talk talked about, I don't know what the theme of the talk was, but it was about how Adam and Eve were the first people to ever walk on this earth. When they opened their eyes, the first human eyes to ever look on this earth, they thought it was beautiful. And I just looked around and I saw everybody eating this up. And I just thought, I'm starting to buy a bunch of flat earthers. These people are no different than flat earthers. There is so much scientific evidence saying that humans have been here for longer, and they don't want to believe it. So that was it. That was my last meeting. So I haven't gone in about 7 months. And my husband stopped going in December, and we are happier than we've ever been.